Pluto will never ask for permission. He comes when the soul is ready, or when the soul has waited long enough. In your chart, he marks the place of deepest transformation. In your life, he marks the moments you thought were endings, but become everything. To understand your Pluto is to understand the soul contract of your generation. From Cancer to Aquarius, each Pluto sign holds the signature of a collective initiation, a spiritual rite that echoes through cultures, crises, and the archetypal lessons of its time. Pluto takes between 12 to 30 years to move through a sign, depending on its distance from the Sun, and so it defines soul groups that carry deep karmic work and evolutionary potential. We will begin with the earliest living generation and move through to today. But before we walk and talk about Pluto in your natal chart, we need to talk about where you come from. Not just your family, but your soul generation. You see, Pluto moves so slowly through the zodiac that entire cohorts are born under the same sign, each one shaped by the crisis, culture, and karma of its time. So today, I want to take you into a journey through time, through history, through the dark and the resurrection of our collective evolution. Come with me to the story of Pluto generations. First, we look at Pluto in Cancer. He was here from 1913 to 1939. That is, the homeland was lost. The main background is we were going through World War I, the Spanish flu pandemic, the Great Depression, the rise of totalitarianism, and the prelude to the Second World War. Let's look at the main astrological aspect during those years. We have Pluto square Uranus in Aquarius from 1919 to 1920. That was revolution meets destruction. This explosive square reflects the aftermath of World War I and the Spanish flu. And Uranus in Aquarius, that triggered radical social reordering, while Pluto in Cancer stripped the emotional security of the old world. The square forced humanity to reimagine survival through collective shift. We have socialism, labor unions, and women suffrage. After that, we have Pluto opposite Saturn in Capricorn from 1931 to 1933. That was structural collapse, the Great Depression. With Saturn in Capricorn, it's all about authority, economy, and government. It was faced with Pluto in Cancer, that challenged emotional security and nationalism. This created a massive polarity between failing institutions and clinging to family, nation for identity. In turn, it led to the rise of fascism as a false protector of the homeland, a dark Pluto in Cancer echo. The imprint of this generation is a legacy of fear-based nationalism, deep emotional suppression, and resilience forged through unimaginable loss. These souls internalized the lesson of when system fell, family is all we have. But some also learned that home can be weaponized. Safety is not always sacred. With Pluto enter Cancer on the eve of World War I, but left just before the start of World War II, that let us sink in. This generation was born into global grief, displacement, starvation, and trauma. They lived through the collapse of empires, the rise of fascism, and the invention of total war. While Cancer rules the home, the mother, the family, and the nation, Pluto here didn't just challenge these things. He devastated them. Children were separated from their families. Entire cities were bombed. The archetype of home itself was shattered. And so this generation, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, became the keepers of silent grief. They rarely spoke of what they had seen, but they carried it in their bodies, in their parenting, in the way they clung to what little security remained. You may remember a grandmother who never wasted food, or a grandfather who never talked about war. That wasn't just personality, it was Pluto in Cancer, a soul imprint of survival. Cancer also rules the mother and her planetary ruler of the moon, and this generation carried profound matriarchal pain. Women who had to stay silent, who raised children while grieving their husbands, who fed family with nothing but ration cards and prayer. But there is another side to this story. Because when you live through the destruction of home, you also know the sacredness of home. This generation valued loyalty, tradition, heritage. They built post-war homes, families, and neighborhoods with fierce devotion because they knew what it means to lose them. Many of today's elders are Pluto in Cancer souls. And while some may seem rigid or emotionally guarded, they carry the wisdom of emotional resilience. They remind us what happened when we forget our roots, and they quietly bless us with a longing to return to what truly matters. This brings us to Pluto in Leo from 1937 to 1958, the age of glory and its shadows. That was the end of World War II, atomic bomb, birth of television, the rise of youth culture, civil rights awakening, and Cold War tensions. The main astrological aspect, we have Pluto conjunct Saturn in Leo from 1947 to 1948, where power met structure, post-war rebuilding with egoic urgency. The conjunction marked a period of strict fathering, patriotic pride, and hyper-focus on success. It also birthed authoritarian structures and the Cold War rhetoric. Might is right. We also have Pluto square Neptune in Scorpio from 1955 to 1957. It was illusion meets obsession. This square exposed the spirit vacuum beneath consumerism and fame. As Pluto intensified Leo's desire for recognition, Neptune in Scorpio whispered of buried trauma and soul hunger. It also seeded both the New Age movement and a growing rebellion against artificial glamour. The imprint of that generation, those souls were caught between authentic brilliance and performative identity. They inherited both the spotlight and the burden of expectation. They initiated the code of personality, but also the healing arts, expressive activism, and sacred creativity. Now imagine being born just after the bombs stopped falling. Pluto moved into Leo in 1937, overlapping with the final years of Pluto in Cancer, and remained until 1958. They were the post-war babies, raised during economic recovery and cultural rebirth. They grew up with Hollywood, rock and roll, and civil rights movement, and the promise of personal success. Leo is ruled by the Sun. It governs self-expression, visibility, and the individual ego. Pluto in Leo gave rise to the me generation, those who were taught to believe they could shine brighter than their parents ever imagined. This is the generation that said, "We will not suffer in silence like our mothers did. We will sing, dance, protest, create, and love, and be seen." Indeed, they changed the world. They marched for civil rights and women's liberation. They became the first TV stars, pop idols, and public activists. They challenged authority with personal expression. But with great power comes also the shadow. Pluto in Leo also brought narcissism, self-entitlement, and the illusion that individual glory could heal collective wounds. This generation sometimes struggled to share the stage, to step out of the spotlight when needed, or to age with grace in a world that worshipped youth. But Pluto in Leo gives us heart-centered revolutionaries, people who inspire through charisma, creativity, and courage. They taught us that personal expression is a spiritual path, but only if it is rooted in authenticity, not performance. Today, many of these souls are elders, some still seeking relevance, while others learning to pass the torch. What are their challenge now? Is to let go of control, to let legacy arise not from fame, but from light shared. Every generation carries a shadow, and every generation also carries a gift. What we inherited is not just DNA, it is soul character, and Pluto is the gatekeeper. Now let us weaving it together to continue with Pluto in Virgo and Pluto in Libra. Pluto in Virgo. It was from 1956 to 1972. We have some very interesting major astrological aspects. The first one we should look at is Pluto trine Saturn in Capricorn. Practical restructuring. This supportive trine between Pluto in Virgo and Saturn in Capricorn birthed the modern work ethic, discipline, plus precision. It granted systematic reform in education, healthcare, civil service, with a deep karmic push to fix what was broken. This generation absorbed an unconscious pressure to be useful, be correct, and be responsible. We also have Pluto conjunct Uranus in Virgo from 1962 to 1969. These are the major obstacles for Pluto in Virgo generation. Pay special attention if you have this aspect in your chart and your life experience. You might be one of those facing major challenges and upheaval. But congratulations on your achievement and being the conscious person that you are becoming. It was a rare and revolutionary conjunction. Uranus, the rebellion, innovatives, fusing with Pluto, with the deep transformation, they created a generation wired for radical change in practical system. They sparked the 60s counterculture with organic food, feminism, civil rights, alternative medicine, and Eastern philosophy. And we have also Pluto opposite Chiron in Pisces. That was 1963 to 1968. The wounds of sacrifice surfaced. Many Pluto in Virgo souls carry inherited savior complexes or deep-rooted guilt from spiritual trauma. They feel responsible for healing the world, but often neglect themselves. Pluto in Virgo was born with a scalpel in one hand and a checklist in the other. They come here to fantasize, but also to repair. This generation is the quiet revolution. The herbalists, the editors, the nurses, the software engineers. They come to strip away illusion and ask, does it work? Is it clean? Can it be improved? But their medicine didn't come without cost. They were born into a world of pollution, war fallout, industrial food, and spiritual disillusionment. Their souls witnessed the gap between sacred ritual and soulless routine. And so they begin the slow task of repurifying the temple, that is our body, earth, society. Where the shadow lays, Virgo wants to serve, but Pluto intensifies that into self-erasure. Many in this generation have struggled with burnout, perfectionism, and never feeling good enough. Yet these souls carry something vital, the code of integration. They are the bridge between the mystical and the practical, between the ritual and the spreadsheets. They teach us that the divine lives in details. Now we follow by Pluto in Libra from 1971 to 1984. The major aspect, we have Pluto square Saturn in Cancer from 1973 to 1974, where power clashed with parental archetype. Family structures cracked open, divorce surged. This square imprinted deep relational insecurity and the struggle between attachment and individualization. We also have Pluto trine-Neptune in Sagittarius from 1975 to 78. Idealistic dreaming that was. This harmonious trine wove together Pluto's desire for truth in relationship with Neptune's search for spiritual freedom. It created a generation highly sensitive to injustice, idealistic about love, and attuned to beauty as truth. And we have Pluto conjunct South Node in Libra in the late 70s. Karmic re-recitation of collective relationship dynamics. Many of these souls come into to clear past life trauma, karma around marriage, justice, and imbalanced partnerships. The themes of compromise, betrayal, and codependency repeat for healing. Pluto in Libra was born into the ruins of the perfect couple. They grew up watching love fall apart, watching court decide who gets custody, watching the dream of romance die, and still yearning for it. Libra is the sign of the mirror, while Pluto here forces us to see what we project, what we avoid, what we attract again and again until we learn. This generation comes to transform relationships, but not just romantic ones. It was also about legal systems, gender roles, diplomacy, and cultural definition of beauty and fairness. They become the therapist, the designers, the mediator, the lovers who wanted to do it right this time. What about the shadow then? The pendulum often swings too far. In trying to avoid conflict, some lost themselves. In seeking harmony, some enabled imbalance. In fearing abandonment, some clung too tightly or walked away before being left. Yet at their core, Pluto in Libra souls are artists of the soul contract. They carry the longing for sacred union, one that honors difference, shadow, and sovereignty. Today, they are the one rewriting the rules of relationships. They are saying, no more power games, no more false peace, only truth, only love that liberates. Now we are coming to Pluto in Scorpio from 1983 to 1995. The major astrological aspects were Pluto conjunct Saturn in Scorpio from 1982 to 84. It was an era of deep karmic reckoning. Saturn's bones and Pluto's fire forged a generation born into a collective trauma and emotional repressions. Many souls from this period carry intense ancestral burdens and soul contracts around emotional mastery. Pluto trine Jupiter in Cancer between 1984 to 85. That was emotional empowerment become possible through introspection and healing. This aspect opened a path for transforming familial patterns and re-establishing faith through depth rather than dogma. Of course, we also have Pluto square Chiron in Gemini. The wound of voicelessness. Many from this period internalize shame for speaking their truth or expressing vulnerability. Their childhood environment often lacked safe emotional language, creating a need to reclaim the right to feel. This generation was born in the underworld. Pluto is at home in Scorpio, but this time his throne, his temple, his mirror. For those born between 83 to 95, nothing has ever felt simple. Love was dangerous. Truth is complicated. Power always entangled with pain. These souls arrived amidst the AIDS crisis, the rise of surveillance culture, the growing exposure of abuse in institutions, and the increasing openness about trauma, and they carry it all in their bones. Scorpio is the sign of death, sex, betrayal, and regeneration. And Pluto here doesn't flirt with these themes. He plunges. This generation became emotional warriors, going to therapy before it was trendy, breaking generational silence, exploring sacred sexuality, shadow work, psychological depth, and unmasking false spirituality and exposing predator in power. They are deeply intuitive, often psychic, and sometimes consumed by their own intensity. What were they challenged? To stop seeing love as a battlefield, to stop equating power with control, and to let transformation be beautiful, not just brutal. They are the dark roses, the phoenixes rising despite the ashes, but because of them. And in a world that still fears the dark, they are teaching us how to sit with it and make art from it. What about Pluto in Sagittarius from 1995 to 2008? The major astrological aspects. We have Pluto square Uranus in Aquarius from 98 to 2002. The technological revolution meets identity crisis. This was the birth of the digital generation. yet also a soul fragmentation. The internet promised freedom, but also seeded detachment from embodied truth. We have Pluto trine Saturn in Leo from 2006 to 7. The possibility of building a spiritual identity through structured creativity. These souls were encouraged to express expressive ideas in tangible ways, yet also pressured to perform their beliefs. With Pluto conjunct the Galactic Center from 2006 to 8, that was a rare alignment with the center of the Milky Way. These late-born Sagittarius may carry interstellar soul missions, bridging worlds, species, or paradigms. They carries of mystical memories, and their spiritual potential is vast, if granted. They were born for freedom, but they were also born into a world of hyper-globalization, collapsing beliefs, and spiritual burnout. Sagittarius rules truth, philosophy, exploration, and faith, while Pluto here forced a generational confrontation with what we think we know. This generation was born just as the internet became normal, when the world's knowledge went from libraries to laptops. But with that comes also overwhelm, escapism, and identity diffusion. They were children during the 9/11, the Iraq War, climate warnings, and endless debates on what is real or fake. They inherited mistrust in institutions, but also a thirst for meaning. Many became spiritual seekers before puberty. The digital nomads, YouTubers, astrologers, philosophers, the rebels of organized religion, but still praying in their own language. Their shadow is dogma disguised as truth, spiritual bypassing, or inflated confidence without embodied wisdom. That with their gift, they are the storytellers of tomorrow. They remind us that no belief is final. The truth must evolve just like the soul. They are here to wonder, yes, but also to teach, to deconstruct the old temples and build fires where we can gather and share stories under the open sky. And so the wheel turns from the wounded healer to the spiritual adventure. Each generation seated by Pluto carries both burden and brilliance. Next, we descend into Pluto in Capricorn generation, born in collapse, building from the bones, and finally with Pluto in Aquarius, the quantum children. Pluto in Capricorn from 2008 to 2023. The major aspects in those years are phenomenal. First, we have Pluto square Uranus in Aries from 2012 to 15. Revolution and resistance. This generational square between Pluto in Capricorn and Uranus in Aries marked intense upheaval. Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, youth upsprings. These souls were born into chaotic structures and felt the pressure to lead change before they could even speak. What about Pluto conjunct Saturn in Capricorn from 2019 to 20? That was the Great Reset. This conjunction is rare and weighty, and it marked the global lockdown, pandemic, and systematic breakdown. Many of these souls were born during this conjunction or were very young when it hit, imprinting them with a world that felt unstable from the start. We have also Pluto sextile Neptune in Pisces. From 2013 to 2023, a quiet undercurrent of spiritual longing and visionary dreaming. These children may be extremely sensitive, empathetic, or artistically gifted, yet easily overwhelmed. This is the generation born as the world fall apart. Pluto in Capricorn came to witness collapse, not just in governments, banks, and traditions, but in myth of progress itself. Capricorn rules structure, order, ambition, authority. With Pluto here, has spent 15 years exposing the rot beneath the empire. From corporate greed to political corruptions to spiritual bypass in leadership. These children were born during economic crisis, climate emergency, institutional decay, and the came of pandemic, the lockdown, the moment the whole world stopped, just as they begin to walk. They are the old souls in young bodies, minimalist, resilient, very-eyed before age 10. Some became activists before puberty. Others retreated into digital caves. Many of them carry unspoken grief, not for what they lost, but for what was never given. Their challenge is to believe in building again, to trust that system can be sacred if they are born from soul, not greed. They will be the architect of the new earth, but first they must grieve the false one. Finally, we are going into Pluto in Aquarius from 2023 to 2044. The major aspect that we are anticipating with Pluto trine Jupiter in Gemini from 24 to 25. The potential for innovative learning and expansion of consciousness through technology and storytelling. These early Aquarian souls will be born into the world of AI consciousness, quantum fields, and multi-dimensional identity. Pluto squared the lunar nodes in Taurus and Scorpio from 23 to 24. That was a karmic reset. These children may carry the memory of past collective trauma and the responsibility of integrating it into something new. The square suggests a generation that will disrupt the material world and redefine what security ever means. And we have Pluto sextile Neptune in Aries from here to 2030s. That is a wave of spiritual futurism, mythicisms, myths, innovation. These children may bring the code of new form of consciousness, possibly ever post-human or post-binary experience of soul. These are the children of the quantum age, born into a world where intelligence is artificial, bodies are optional, and identity is fluid. Pluto in Aquarius governs technology, the collectives, innovation, and cosmic intelligence. This is the first generation raised by both humans and machines. Their lullabies may be AI generated. Their mentors may be avatars. Their playgrounds, part physical, part virtual. And yet, they are not here to become less human. They are here to redefine what humanity means. This generation may erase the old labels of gender, race, and nationality to build decentralized systems of power, to channel non-human intelligence, and to merge mythicisms with math, compassion with code. The shadow will be about disconnection, dissociation, or the seduction of escaping the body entirely. But they bring with them their gift. They are the visionaries, the bridge walker, the soul coders. They are not just downloading the future, they are designing it. And their deepest teaching will be evolution is not about abandoning the heart. It is about remembering how to use it wisely together. And so as we arrive here at the edge of the known, looking back through a century of soul contracts, from the trauma-silenced womb of Cancer to the techno-woven mind of Aquarius. These are not just dates in a book. These are soul stories. And your Pluto generation is more than context. It is the pulse of your evolutionary purpose. Now, let us go deep and ground before the next podcast of Pluto in your natal chart. Each house interpretation is designed to feel alive, let you feel being seen on your path. I see you very soon. From my heart to yours, Genevieve.